It's not quite time, but I figure since there are people here, then we might as well talk a little bit while we wait exactly 2 minutes to start. My name is Dr. Jonathan Cresci, and I'm here to talk to you about Reaper. How many people in this room use Reaper presently? Cool. How many people want to use Reaper but don't know how? Okay, fantastic. How many people have no idea why they're here and they're just here because their friend brought them here? Okay, excellent. Fantastic. Hopefully you'll learn something too. So just introduction for those of you who don't know me. This is the first time I've done an orchestra panel, so that's cool. Usually I'm in just panels, but now I'm in orchestra panels too. And also tomorrow at noon, I'm giving a How to Record Classical Music 101 class. So be there if you like classical music. Classical with the small c classical, not the big C classical, although that is part of it. So, just so you get to know me, I run a company called Fundamental Sounds, which is an audio production company and record label. I'm also the assistant professor for sound recording technology at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, down in South Texas, where we have a beautiful brand new school of music and a brand new studio and all sorts of awesome things in it, and I get to run it, which is fantastic. What you just heard there, which we'll be looking at a little bit later as an example of using Reaper to master things, is actually the jazz combo from Texas A&M University, Kingsville, and it is all student run. The pieces they are playing in that album are all student written. So it's student written, student run, and they have 3 albums: Dendrology, Lithology, and the last one that we just released is Pyrology, which is what you listened to. Although the tune you were listening to was called Cavitation. What's cool is the guy who writes a lot of the music for them, he actually won a Downbeat Award because he's awesome. So there you go. Now we're gonna have to fight a little bit because I hear that there's going to be a brass ensemble thing going on right over there. And since, I'm a trumpet player, I understand how loud that might get. So if we have to, we've got speakers, we can fight back. All right. Cool, 901, let's go. It's Learning Reaper. I just told you who I am. If you want to get in touch with me, meaning if you have any questions, if you have concerns, if you want to tell me some cool stuff that you want me to go over, remember, all of the information that I give out in panels, all of my ideas come from you all telling me what you want to learn, because I don't know what. Audio's a lot, and I could talk about a lot of stuff. So if you want to learn something, let me know, and I can submit that as a panel next year. My website works. It kind of sucks, but that's okay. The people who did it, they went out of business, so I'm getting a new one. But it works. It's there. It works, and it's cool. But you can get me at my email address, fundamentalsounds.com. I answer every email. And so expect an email back from me when you do email me. The Twitter thing is up there, but if you don't use Twitter, there's the new one, Blue Sky, right? I got the same thing. It's Fun Sounds, but however you look it up on Blue Sky. And then the next one is my YouTube channel that only has 1 video on it. But that's cool. There'll be more. It's awesome. And especially if you're a trumpet player and you just happen to want to know how to do the Arkansas State All-State Trumpet Etudes, that's where you go. It's the best one on the internet. All right, this is what Reaper stands for. How many actually knew that it was an acronym? It stands for Rapid Environment for Audio Production, Engineering, and Recording. That's why it is Reaper. It's pretty cool because Reaper it was developed by the guy who invented Winamp. Does anybody remember Winamp? Oh gosh, sort of, a little bit, yeah. The best thing about Winamp was when you started its opening screen would go, Winamp. It really kicks the llama's ass. That was the thing. It was an MP3 player. And back when I was a kid, when MP3s were like, oh my God, we just stole something off the internet, isn't this cool, aren't we awesome? That was what you used to play it before we had iPods and Rios and things that played them portably. So he sold that Winamp to Yahoo and made $1 billion or something. And then decided, hey, I've always wanted to make a digital audio workstation. So he made a digital audio workstation. So let's define that really quick. Digital audio workstations, they are commonly called DAWs, D-A-Ws, okay? What they are they are programs that allow you to record and manipulate sound. Now, everything is a DAW nowadays. Back in the old days, we used to have hard lines between what was a digital audio workstation and what was like a sequencer. So for instance, you know, Ableton Live is a sequencer first and a DAW second. And like Pro Tools is a DAW first and a sequencer in a very distant second, right? So it does MIDI very poorly. But nowadays, everything does everything, and it all pretty much is the same. But Reaper is kind of interesting. So the first reason why everybody comes after Reaper is because it's very cheap. Okay, it's $60, or if you choose to not pay for it, it'll just remind you to pay for it continuously forever. Yeah, right, exactly. There is a trial edition, you do have to pay for it. You know, if you end up using it, just buy it, because it's only $60 compared to the fact that Pro Tools is on a subscription license and it costs you at least, I think the minimum is probably $199 a year. So it's good. Let's see. I own a commercial license. You will see that it is licensed on my thing here. So there you go. I have credibility because it's licensed. There are a couple things that make Reaper really cool, and I thought I would talk about that first, sort of like, I mean, you're already here, so I don't have to sell you on it. The first time I gave this panel was in 2017, and like people were unsure as to what Reaper was, and so I had to sell them on it. I don't really have to sell you on it, but there are certain things that still make it unique, because most DAWs have actually retained all of the functions that Reaper sort of started. So Reaper was one of the first ones to allow you to use folder tracks, where you have a track that you can stick other tracks in to organize better. It was one of the first ones to do that. Now Pro Tools has it, and Logic has it, and I mean Cubase, I don't know if they have it, I don't use Cubase, but most of them have that stuff. But some of the stuff that it's still awesome is that it's cross-platform. It's actually one of the few DAWs that are cross-platform. Like consistently cross-platform. And I also forgot to put the slide in this while I was making this, that you can actually make a bootable version of Reaper. So you can put it on a USB stick and just go to someone's house and pop it in and run Reaper. And you can put all your plugins on there and everything. And yes?
Is that a persistent operating system bootable image? So like if I save projects to it and everything, I can take that with me?
So the question is it persistent? Yes, if you save projects to the same USB, you'll be able to run it. Yeah, so like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love the fact that it's cross-platform, so when I'm teaching students, I don't have to worry about whether they have a PC or a Mac. It just works. I've never known anybody to run it on Linux, but it does run on Linux. So there you go. If you roll Linux and you want like Red Hat or whatever Linux is nowadays, go right ahead. The other thing is you can put effects, meaning plugins, at pretty much every stage of audio. You can put plugins directly on items, which is what they call regions, which is either, yeah, that's not going to be annoying. Fantastic. So you can put it anywhere, right? That's something that is actually quite different than most DAWs. Most DAWs only allow you to place them on possibly the item and maybe the track, but you cannot put it on like the monitor, right? You can actually stick plugins on your monitor so that anything that you play through it, like any project, will run through that same monitor and get those plugins. It's actually really cool when you're mastering, because you can put meters and stuff on your monitor, and that way when you go between different projects, they're always there. The other really neat thing that no one else does is projects can be items. So what that means is that projects can actually be built into your larger project. So you could have a big project that you call whatever the album is, right? I'm going to approach this from a musical standpoint, right? So it's an album, and then every track in there, the item in that track could be a tune that you're mixing on Reaper for that album. And then when you can drill into it. So you can be like, oh, I need to work on this. So you drill in and you mix it a little bit better, and then it brings it back in, and there it is as an item, and you can master that item. It's pretty awesome. It's the only one that does that. The other thing is it is completely customizable. And this comes in really big, especially if you're a classical person, because there's a thing we're going to talk about tomorrow, but I'm going to show you a little bit today. There are two skins that people have created. One is called Kohler Classical. It's by a clarinet player named Jonathan Kohler. He's a nice guy, a little weird, but nice guy. Okay, and he's super intense, and he's like super intense. And so if you call him about a question, he will get right back to you, and he'll be like, I will zoom you with the answer. Like, he is very cool. But he developed Kohler Classical, which is literally a source destination editor, which we'll talk a little bit about tomorrow in classical. But what that is classical music doesn't have a grid. You don't record classical music to a grid, meaning it doesn't have a click track. I mean, it might have a click track, but you're not locking anything to a grid, because you want the people to be able to like move the way they want to move, right? It's going to have a lot of personality to it. When you try to edit something in sort of the traditional way we edit things in audio, I should say the modern way we edit it, it makes it super hard, because you can only edit in one way. Kohler Classical uses what's called source destination, which is you go, okay, I want this source, and I want it to go to this destination, and it just goes boop. And then you're like, I want this part over here to go here, and it'll go where it's supposed to go, separate the track, and then make sure it's all in time. It's the way we used to edit classical music back in 1990 with a classical editor called Sonic Solutions, which still works, but is pretty bad. Now it's like, this is super good, but this is the only one for the Mac platform, period. Now, I should say that that's not true. There's one other one that just came out called Reclassical, R-E-A Classical, because if you do anything that is open source for Reaper, I don't know if it's like contractually obligated that you must put R-E-A before it, but that's what they do. So Reclassical is Kohler Classical, but you don't have to pay for it. Where Kohler Classical, you got to pay for it. I haven't personally tried Reclassical yet, but it's there, and I'll show you. But the fact is you can customize everything in Reaper. You want it to look different? Go right ahead. You want the buttons to do different things? Go right ahead. You want to, like, every time you click something, it triggers a script to do like 8 different things? Go right ahead. It is completely customizable, scriptable, everything. So it's really, really cool.
I appreciate that you customize this stuff.
Thank you. So the other cool thing that Reaper does is it changes the way audio flows through the DAW. This is a very, very simple idea of how audio flows through a DAW. You have a track that has audio on it that flows through an insert, goes to the fader, then there's a solo button which allows you to listen to just that, and then there's a mute button that turns it off, a pan knob to go left or right, and then the output bus that it's going to. It's funny because there's one thing that changes with Reaper, and it's game-changing from an audio perspective. They switch the mute and the solo. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to mute a track, and then if you want to, you can solo that track, and it'll still play. And you're thinking to yourself right now, who cares, it's really stupid. But like in a mastering situation, you might want your original track. And then you have the track that you're processing, and you might want to compare them. Like, am I screwing it up, or is it okay? So you mute it, and you just leave it muted the whole time. And then when you want to hear it, you just tap the solo button. You hear it, and it's dead in time because it's been locked. So it's right in time, so you can just click back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and really find out whether you're doing a great job or not. And so this is, no other DAW does this. None at all. And I mean, it really is something that has helped me a lot when I use it. Now for me, DAWs are situational. Okay, I talked about this in my panel about making a recording system. You have to use the DAW that the people you're going to collaborate with use. Okay, so if you're going to be doing studio work in a major studio, odds are they're going to be using Pro Tools. However, there are certain things, like if you work by yourself, or if you're in the game industry uses Reaper a lot. I have old statistics that basically say it's 70% acceptance rate. They don't really use anything else but Reaper. I didn't put slides up for that because I'm not sure if it's still true or not, and I can't find any more statistics. But the concept is that you could use it, like for me, I use Reaper for classical editing, and I use it for mastering everything. And I own dedicated mastering software like Wavelab and stuff like this, and Reaper does it just as well, if not better. And I'm always going back to it. Some things that I don't use Reaper for necessarily is I don't like it for non-acoustic music. I like Pro Tools better for things that are locked to a grid. Only for one reason, and that's because they have something called a playlist, which allows you to do multiple takes, but they're not in a lane. They're in like a sub-track or something, which allows you to edit a lot more freer than the take system on Reaper or on Logic or on Cubase. But it's still just as good. I just wanted to let you know that when you see some of these projects, I have a mix of Pro Tools and Reaper projects, and most of my Reaper projects are editing or they are mastering projects. Okay? All right, here are your two skins, Kohler Classical and Reclassical. Kohler Classical is what you will be witnessing today, but Reclassical is another version of that. And this, again, is a source destination editor, and I'll show you that. And maybe we'll even edit something, although I'm sure the people that I recorded are going to be a little, they won't like the fact that it's going to be going out there, but it is what it is. Sir?
Is the URL correct, or is the spelling of Kohler correct?
The URL is correct. The spelling of Kohler is incorrect. Thank you.
I want to be sure.
Oh, yeah. I mistyped it. All right, so let's look at Reaper. Any questions so far? Any thoughts? Anything? No? Okay. Okay, this is going to be relatively hard to see because it's tiny. But let's look at Reaper. So this is Reaper. This is a mastering project that I've done. It's for Pyrology. It's the master. And as you can see, Reaper is what we would call a one-window interface. Up here is the, on the top, because you might not be able to see the pointer, is the edit window. And underneath is the mixer. What's another neat thing about Reaper is if you notice, here is that track. It's the top track. But notice there's 1, 2, 3 tracks in front of it that are not being displayed in the edit window. We have independent views. We can create different views for what we want. So I can display something in the track window, or I can display something in the mixer, and they don't all have to be the same, which is kind of nice. But let me display everything. So this is the track manager, and as you can see, these little dots here tell you what, well, there's none there, but that tell you what are being displayed. But I'll just hit here, it'll organize everything, and let's start with the very first group of stuff. So the way I always do my masters is I have one track, and it is called the name of the tune, the name of the CD. So the name of the CD is Pyrology. Okay? And then underneath that, I have every single tune that's in there. So the next one is called, what is it? Don't have my glasses on. Don't get old. Cavitation, okay? So we have this tune. This is another folder track. And then in that is the original, I call it the OG, and the processed. These are both the same tune. Notice how OG is muted. Here, I'll zoom in. Okay. Ooh, that was kind of neat. All right, so it's muted, right? So you can't hear it, but I can solo it. Excellent. All right. So here we go. This is better. All right. So this is the unmastered tune. If it gets too loud, just raise your hand. So this is the unmastered tune. Okay, and play and pause is just a space bar like everywhere else. Pretty much all the shortcuts are the same. You'll notice that there's green outlines over it. That means that they are connected together, and anything I do to one will happen to the other when it comes to moving them back and forth, okay, which I'll talk about in a second. So that is why I have this solo button. It's pretty awesome because I can listen to the original, right? Because then when I hit play, and I'm going to have to make this softer because it's mastered louder. When I hit play again, here we'll start here. This is the original. Let's go to a better spot. Here. Okay. Now I can go and I can hit the solo button. That's the mixed version. Or not mixed, the mastered version. And I go back. Okay, so one is mastered 8 decibels louder than the other one. So that's super powerful because I can sit there and I can flip back and forth and I can be like, okay, this is what I want. I like what I did. Or what I didn't. They need to work on their high notes. All right. Okay. Clark studies. Let's do that. All right. So right here, I tend to run everything in the editor because you can access pretty much everything in the editor. So FX are where all of your inserts are or all of your plugins. So if I click that, you'll see all of the plugins that I have on this track. I have an EQ. I have a compressor. For those of you who went to my compressor panel, this is of course it's not licensed, so there you go. I don't have the thing plugged in. I have another EQ, I have a clipper, and then I have a limiter, which is another compressor. So this is not a mastering class, but that is my chain for my master, and that is what you would get. And that happens on every track, every process track. And they're slightly tuned back and forth. You'll also notice that you can fold them in, so you can do this. You'll see that the different tracks, like if I go between them, they go linearly like a CD. The reason I do that, now actually it doesn't start that way. I created a script. So they start lined up all the way on the bottom, and I master them that way. And the reason I do that is so that I can listen to each one to see if they all match. Right? So like this one sounds like this. Oop, don't do that. Don't nudge it. Okay, that's cool slap back. Okay, and this is what this one sounds like. This is what this one sounds like. No, actually, and I'll show you why it's super easy. So basically they're like this now. I put them this way to actually make the rendering easier. But originally they were all lined up so that I could just click on them and make sure they all sounded the same, because when you listen to those, they're different tunes, right? And they're actually different players, and they were recorded at vastly different times. But I did my best to make them sound like they all happened relatively at the same time, so they belong on the album together. And that made it easy. Once I finished that, I wrote a script that would stretch them out. So I would hit a button, and it just went, and it just stretched them out so one stopped where the other one began. And that's helpful, because if I ever want to make a CD with this, okay, you do what's called creating a DDP. That's if I wanted it pressed. To send something to a pressing plant, you need a file called a DDP. And usually you have to use very expensive programs for that. But in Reaper, you can go to render, and you can say, I want to render a DDP. And it will take all of the stuff that I've inputted in other places and spit out a industry standard CD file. Okay? Now that wouldn't be for someone just sending something to CD Baby and getting burnt CDs, right? But if you're going to press them, if you're going to send them to a plant and they're going to be all shiny and beautiful, right, with your minimum 1,000 order, because you're confident you're going to be able to sell them all, then you would use a DDP. Now the reason I also stretch them out is if you look up here, you'll see all of my tunes are named. So you got Lavender Blues, Tu Beleza, right? Sailing Stones, all of this stuff. I can actually go to what is called the, where is it? We gotta go to the, why can't I see? Region Marker Manager. Here's my regions. I can say, I want to go to my render matrix. This basically says, I want all of these regions to be rendered on the master mix. And then I go to the renderer, and I tell it to render all of the master mix, all of the project regions. And it will spit out the name of the region and all of the other doodles that I tell it to do, the bit depth, the sample rate, project region, bit depth, sample rate, and it'll spit it all out.
That is an entire finished track list.
Yes.
In one folder in like 5 minutes.
Correct. The other cool thing, which I have to say is, I think is awesome, very dramatic. So if I come in here, and I go project region, selected region. So I selected a region, this one, cavitation. I can go down to render, but I can do dry run, no output. And basically it's rendering my file, okay? What this is doing is very important. It's giving you very vital data. It's telling you what the peak is. Right? It's telling you whether you clipped or not. It's telling you what your integrated loudness is, okay? Your median, your short term, and then your integrated. This is hugely important for mastering engineers because you have to hit targets, especially if you're in media like video games. Like, you can't miss it by 1/10 of a decibel. It has to be what it's supposed to be, or it will be denied. Right? And I cannot tell you how much of a pain in the rear end it is that in order to get the actual number, you have to render the file. Reaper is the first program that lets me not render it, but it goes through it, and I can look at it and go, okay, I screwed up right there. Like, we're at 16.2. I was shooting for 16, close enough. But if I had gone over it, that would be a problem. I can also click stats and charts, and I can actually open it and find out at what point were my loudest stuff. This is awesome. Like, this is $60. Or it's not $60. Still, it's there. Like, you could do this, and it's like $60, or it's like still evaluating every time. Okay? So this is one of the reasons why I love using Reaper. because it has all of this functionality. It's run by a community of people. It's not open source itself, but the community is very open source. And so they come up with all sorts of stuff. Now, I'll give you a downside to Reaper. It doesn't necessarily use every control surface. So if you're bound to a particular control surface, like if you like to mix things with your hands and you don't want to use mice and you bought like a surface, you have to make sure that it's a Huey protocol surface and not a fancy one like Yukon or any of that stuff, because it doesn't work so well with that. Yes?
If you haven't bought a control surface but you'd like to, do you have a recommendation? Not to take your recommendation as, gospel, but I would, I just wonder.
I don't at the moment because I use Yukon control surfaces. But you want something from a reputable manufacturer. So probably PreSonus is okay. I would stay away from anything that is like heavy AliExpress-like. There's a lot of those floating around. I would have to look. I just haven't done it. Haven't looked at stuff. Huey. It's called Mackie Huey. H-U-I. That's the protocol. I really appreciate everybody sitting and listening to me as we listen to the brass band going on right next door. It's fantastic. So anyway, this dry run feature is pretty awesome. So let me show you, what time is it? Okay, let me show you some other stuff here real quick. Let me show you kind of how, well, let me ask you, what do you want to know? In your last 10 minutes, what is like a question that's burning? Yes? Where do you find the plugins? Absolutely. Here we go. Plugin finding. So if you're in the edit window, you just have to make the track bigger. If the track is really tiny, you won't see it. So you kind of have to just stretch it out. There's a thing called FX. It's right here. Okay, you click on it, and the first time you click on it, it's going to be like, add FX to the track. And this is the list of all the effects. For those of you who went to one of my other panels, see, I told you I have a lot of plugins. It keeps going. See, just keeps on going. Yeah, there you go. That's it. All the way there. Okay. Let's see. Recently used. Like maybe that much. I don't even. Oh, this was just me like farting around with it in my bedroom last night. So I don't even really use this stuff. But see, that's the thing is like, so again, don't buy plugins. It's not worth it. These are the plugins that come with it. It's the Reaper plugins are the Cuckoo's plugins. They all have re after it, R-E-A. The other thing about Reaper is it will run any kind of plugin except for Pro Tools plugins. So if you buy a plugin that's a .aax, that's strictly Pro Tools. It won't run on this, but it runs everything else. VST, AU, VST2, VST3, everything. Okay? Yes?
So, on that note, how difficult is it to take projects from other DAWs into Reaper? Like, I have coworkers who have their specific preferences. I don't really do much with audio myself, but I want to learn more.
It is very hard to move any project to any DAW. DAWs are very, they are very specific. They want their stuff, okay? It actually makes archiving audio very difficult because if I want to archive like a CD, I have to archive it at every step, which means I have to have the stuff that was mixed and it has to be bounced out as it was mixed because I cannot be guaranteed that Pro Tools will exist in 5 years and I need to be able to reconstruct the project. So moving audio between things is terrible, okay? I'm just being straight up with you. It's awful, and that's why I say you've got to use what your colleagues that you're going to work with use, because it is just a pain in the rear end, okay? But at the same time, a lot of people are using more Reaper now, and because of its cheapness. But your plugins are here. one of the problems with plugins on Reaper is, like, for instance, let's just look at the compressor. So they're not pretty. Like, they're just sliders and stuff, right? But it has all the right things, like here's your threshold, and here's your attack, and here's your release, and here's your ratio, and it's all the same. They're just not, like, they're not pretty like this one. I don't even have it on here. I don't use it enough. But like this, it's not like super flashy like FabFilter or something like that, right? It's pretty simple. Yes, question. Oh, next one, right behind you. Au contraire, mon frere. All right, here we go. Let's add a track. You're not going to do it for me, are you? Because you're mean. Come on. Oh, it's because I'm zoomed in. All right, here's a track. All right, make it big so we can see it. What's a track? What's a track? Okay, no, that's actually it's a good question. A track is a place. A track is, so a tape recorder has tracks, and DAWs are digital representations of tape recorders. So like a cassette tape has two tracks. It has a left track and a right track. Multi-track tape recorders can have lots of them. This is basically an infinite tape recorder. We can have as many tracks as we want. And what resides on those tracks are items. And in normal DAWs, items can be audio files and they can be MIDI files, and that's about it. And you usually have to have a specific track for each. In Reaper, tracks are just tracks. They're buckets that you can stick things in. And so you can either put an audio file in here, or I can go up to item and I can go up to insert, new MIDI item. And then I don't know why it's so short, but there you go. Here's our new MIDI item. Oops, that's whatever. I double click on it, ta-da, piano roll. And you can do stuff. Yes? How do you add a virtual instrument to the piano? So the piano roll is the piano roll. It's how let me also be straight up with you. I'm a real instrument recording engineer. I don't do a ton of MIDI stuff, but I know how to do it, and I teach it, but it's not like, I keep, MIDI's taking my job, so it's like, I can't support it. But however, this is where you would write your music, right? You can come in and you can, stick notes and do stuff, right? In Reaper, it's a lot like, what do you want to call it? It's a lot like Pro Tools. So Pro Tools, you need to put your VST, so here's like an instrument. Again, I gotta take my glasses off. Like, where is it? BX something or other. Let's see. Like recent. This is really loud. This will be obnoxiously loud. Okay, here, we'll turn this down. Let's solo this. Oh, it's because it's... Oh, there, you can hear it. It's really low, actually. See, I told you it was there. Anyway, so the instrument goes on the effect. So it's like a plug-in, and you stick it there, and it plays your MIDI. You can also, though, use that if you have external MIDI, like if you're old school and you've got like MIDI boxes. You can output that. You can output the track as MIDI out, physical output, and it'll go to your box, and all of those controls will control your MIDI box, and then you can route the audio back into Pro Tools. So yes, it does have a dedicated piano roll. You can use it. It's probably not as awesome as Ableton Live. You're not going to be getting your scenes and all of your stuff that you would get with that, but you can do the work. Yes?
If you are not mastering but mixing,
Uh-huh.
what is the most graceful way here to handle automation?
They call them envelopes. So it's this. It's this button right here called trim. And here's all your envelopes. So we have volume, pan, width, volume, pan, pre-effects, post-effects, blah, 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 mute, everything. And here are all of my VST stuff. And what you do is you can say, okay, I want my volume to be active. And so you come over here, whoops. It doesn't like, it also doesn't like the Mac gestures. It confuses it because you've got to be exactly up or exactly this way or it gets confused. And now you've got this, and you can, you can alter your thing, you can create points, and you can draw, and you can do whatever you want. And if you wanted to and you had a control surface, you could turn touch on, and you could move it up and down. Yeah. Yep. You just record the envelope.
On whatever HUI protocol.
Correct. Yep. And then you can turn them off, you can turn them on, right? I just turned it off. You can turn it back on again. You can erase it. You can clear the envelope. Sure. Right, you could do whatever you want, and you can set those up, and they all go on the bottom. But yeah, it's weird, because in most other programs, it's just called automation. But in Reaper, they had to be different, so they called it an envelope, even though it's not like an acoustic envelope. So it's a little different. Any other questions? Yes? Yes, to lock items together, you just group them. So if we go to an item, like here, you actually just go to group and group items. So the shortcut is G. It's not even Command G. It's just straight up G. And you can group them. Now that is a group on the timeline. In order to group as far as mixing and all of that, you actually have to group the tracks. That's different than other DAWs. Other DAWs, you group the track and it groups the items in the track at the same time. This is separate. You can group the tracks so that you can control them at the same time, or you can group the items so you can control them at the same time, like cutting and moving. All right? I have been told that I must shut up now. However, I am happy to you ask me any questions you would like. Real quick, so I can show you this and you can take a picture. Okay, you've got to get the SWS extensions. Take a picture. Okay, SWS extensions. I would also recommend Repack. Repack has all of the cool stuff that the community does, and they make neat things. However, just be careful what you install because you are installing it on your computer from the internet. Okay? And then, these are really good places to get information. Reaper Blog and Reaper Mania. Okay, but specifically Reaper Blog. The guy who runs Reaper Blog, never met him, but all of his information has turned out to be really, really good. And he can take you from 0 to nothing pretty quick. Okay, so this is me. If you want to ask me questions, go right ahead. Get in contact with me. I will be here tomorrow until like 3 o'clock, but I'm giving a classical recording. If you're going to see me, I hope to see you there. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys.